As you all know, Tech Mahindra is participating in the World Economic Forum in Dalian, China. And on road to the World Economic Forum, we have quite a few leaders with us who will speak to us live on our Tech Mahindra story in Dalian, China, as well as how we are taking innovation as a concept the world over. So today we have a special guest, our Nikhil Malhotra, the global head of innovation Tech Mahindra. Uh, you can see Nikhil. You can wave to the audience if they can see.
Hey, Arun.
Hey, thank you, Nikhil. I'll just give a brief introduction of Nikhil. Nikhil basically heads the innovation in Tech Mahindra. He created the Makers Lab, that is the innovation arm of Tech Mahindra. And with over 20 years of experience, out of which 11 in Tech Mahindra, he's now leading the growth of AI and machine learning within the organization. He also created an indigenous robo in his own lab as his personal assistant. So that is also something you can ask him and get to know how he accomplished that and how the robo is helping in our day-to-day activities. Let me welcome Nikhil to the YouTube live session
Thank you so much.
on AI implications and road ahead. Over to you, Nikhil.
Thanks, Arun. I think it's a pleasure. I think we'll look forward to having questions and talking about what do we do and how we're taking the innovation story both globally as well as what we want to do within the Indian sector as well. I think the ideology of Makers Lab, or what we created back in 2014, was essentially an ideology to promote thinkubation or R&D in the IT services sector. The idea is there is a growth and change in technologies that is happening, and these technologies are positively shaping the world. But what about businesses, and how can we affect the business or the end consumer's life by looking at a problem statement and not just providing solutions from a perspective of a services company? So Makers Lab and our innovation group focuses on 4 or 5 radical technologies, namely AI and machine learning, where we essentially try and look at the algorithms, look at the neuroscientific aspect of algorithms as well, and looking at IoT and robotics, also looking at AR and VR. We've got professional gamers who can essentially make games and gamifications for enterprise companies, but also looking forward to some of the curves around the corner, where techniques which are subatomic or quantum computing would essentially start playing a part in the coming future. So these are about, and of course, blockchain and some of the other things that we do. So these 4 or 5 technologies would play a major role in shaping the world economy, looking at sustainability and the future. So looking forward to this conversation here, Arun.
Sure, Nikhil. So let me make this Q&A round so that there is more interaction. And maybe towards the latter half of the session, we can take some of the questions from the audience.
Oh, absolutely.
And take it forward. So today's topic being AI implications and the road ahead. So as we delve into this world of artificial intelligence, can you tell something about some of the greatest AI implementations you have seen around the globe?
Oh, there have been many, but I think 4 or 5 have caught my eye over the period of last 13, 14 odd years. That's fine. I think I'll start off with some of the 2 or 3 challenges, or some of the 2 or 3 implementations that have really changed and really caught my eye over the past 14, 15 odd years. I think one was, of course, the DARPA challenge in 2005. Stanley, the autonomous vehicle from Stanford, won that competition hands down. And I think they applied a technique of vision and some of the AI techniques and machine learning techniques that made them win through. Well, the reason why it's important and why it caught my eye is that there has been a change in the autonomous industry or autonomous vehicle industry post that. And you have now got Waymos and Google and some of the others who are essentially looking towards providing autonomous vehicles. And that has been one of the fantastic implementations of AI that changed the world. I think second, going forward, Fei-Fei Li is a researcher from Stanford again. And she started off a concept called ImageNet. Image and vision has always been, and vision and language has been two components which have always influenced AI and researchers around the world. And the artificial intelligence world really changed to a different aspect when Fei-Fei really made a ImageNet challenge, where images were taken from all over the world and they were essentially put in and labeled as well. and that has really created vision on a very different, very different role at this point in time. The third thing is, of course, which really caught my eye and influenced the a whole lot of researchers around the community of AI, was DeepMind winning the Go challenge. And DeepMind probably did something on reinforcement learning, which essentially allowed a Go player, which was one of the best Go players in the world, a South Korean, essentially lose to machine 4-1. And it was a win for AI on a lot of perspectives and aspects. Number one, the machine did something which required a large amount of calculation, which we of course know that the machines can do well. But I think number two, the machines produced some moves which were normally considered off limits by humans in a game, and then won that challenge, where essentially the machine told the humans that there is an ideology that you can do. I think that was another sector that probably changed and changed a lot in AI, and probably gave a lot of different perspectives. And of course, lastly, Boston Dynamics and what they're doing with their robots has really caught an eye at this point in time, where robots, it's scary at some point, but also it's really interesting to see how robots and robotics have essentially been changed using some of the state-of-the-art of AI and machine learning that they utilize. And I think these are 4 or 5 trends that are really...
It was trending all over.
Yeah, it was trending all over.
On social media, it was trending.
On social media as well. Yes, sir.
Perfect. So now, going forward, I mean, if you're looking into the future, what can be some of the exciting trends in artificial intelligence which might come alive?
So I think we have AI is not a new field, as opposed to a lot of people that think from 2000 2001 onwards. It's just taken a lot of prominence post 2005 and 2006. A, because of the computing power, and B, because of what we have done with a large amount of data processing, of course, with GPUs. But AI has been going around from 1956, when the term AI was coined in 1956 in Dartmouth College. And most of the algorithms around AI and machine learning have been very statistical in their approaches. Well, that approach got changed when Geoffrey Hinton suddenly produced a great result on AlexNet, or an image competition by deep neural networks. But post that, I think the future of AI is very interesting. A, because we think that an angle of neuroscience is essentially entering into AI. And the neuroscientific angle is essentially to understand how our human brains work. Because even though we essentially work with AI today and machine learning and machines essentially predicting data, it's a large amount of pattern crunching and predictive facilities that machines doing. But that pattern crunching, if you look at into the realms of AI, is not really intelligence. And most of the AI systems have today been working to belie something called a Turing test. And Turing test essentially said that if you can't decipher when you're talking to a machine or a human being, then the machine supposedly passed that Turing test. Now, most of the AI machine world is essentially looking towards that and trying to complete that Turing test, even though there is a flaw in that test. The flaw in the test states that if you can mimic intelligence, you are deemed intelligent. So the AI systems today are mimicking intelligence, even though they're not intelligent. The future of AI essentially is looking towards how neuroscience, or a part of your brain, or the way your neurons really fire, could probably look at AI. And this is a research that we do at TechM and in Maker's Lab as well. And we're currently doing that.
Right. And in Tech Mahindra, we also focus a lot on sustainability.
Yes.
So in terms of sustainability, how do you foresee, I mean, how will AI help in creating a sustainable future?
So I think sustainability is all about how do we sustain ourselves on this planet. And I think this planet has been undergoing it's been under duress for a long period of time, whether you consider soil or the land that we live in, the air that we breathe in. I think AI is going to help us in a lot of other ways. I think in Tech Mahindra, we have started a program called AI for Action under the aegis from our MD and chairman, Mr. Anand Mahindra, saying that can we do something with AI to give actionable insights around the planet and even around the climate. That's number one. But number two is looking from agricultural techniques and giving farmers a heads up, or from a machine learning predictive phase, saying that whether this soil would last or give a proper yield to a particular crop that you're trying to utilize, or to looking at what insights from a pollution standpoint, and looking at the major crisis today that is happening around water. and the water table reduction in the country? Can we look at some of those predictive insights from an AI perspective? That is where sustainability or sustainable AI would help. In fact, as a part of this program for World Environment Day, we at Makers Lab Tech Mahindra also did a small little exercise where we used a drone to plant or sow seeds on one of the hills in, which is a small component of Western Ghats, looking at, technology has been objectified, technology is there, but can technology be used for the betterment of this planet? And that is how AI would probably help sustainability.
All right. Continuing on the innovation story of Tech Mahindra, we've of late seen a lot of robots like Pepper. There is K2 that is launched. That is one of the first humanoid, HR humanoid ever created. So, if you could elaborate on that story.
See, the Tech Mahindra innovation story has deep roots, and it started off about 5 to 7 years back. I think that does not mean that we've not been innovating in our business scope and what we do with our businesses. I think the structure and a culture was given to it, and the culture is essentially more collaborative. And the format is: can we look at inside out from what our associates produce as an incremental innovation to something that we can look at, from an outside in perspective, where we are looking towards so I think the story of it sums it up all in a single word called courage. And if you look at courage, it essentially has to be from the heart and the mind. And if you look at courage and you break it open, I think the first C probably refers to collaboration. So we love to collaborate. Today at Innovation and in Tech Mahindra, we've got startups that collaborate with us. We've got our own associates doing, a lot of new stuff. We even have researchers and research communities around the world who are collaborating, along with interns that come to our Makers Lab and do all of that. The O part is important because it objectifies technology, and we've learned it through hard ways as well, Arun. We started building a bike when we started Makers Lab, and just to make it stand on a robotic piece. We didn't complete anything with it, but we actually hung the bike on the wall. The idea was, can you objectify technology? Can you touch and feel technology and do that? The U component really says that you are the maker. You have the ability to essentially do all of this. It's all about thinking out of the box, or maybe sometimes thinking that there is no box involved in all of this. The R and the A essentially says, can you rewire your psyche? Can you rewire your brain? I think the heart seems to be a organ which is involuntary, continuously pumps blood. It is the brain that essentially requires that rewiring. And that's why rewiring of psyches are very important. The A component really says, how can you ask stupid questions every day, or perceivably stupid? Because what we believe is asking these stupid questions reveals a mystery in the world. It says that when you ask these stupid questions every day, it simplifies a lot of complex things, and that also harbors innovation in a way. And of course, E is empathizing with your own self as well. When you empathize with your customers, with your end consumers, it's important to empathize that the road to innovation or the road to true innovation is riddled with potholes. And sometimes when innovators get into those potholes, they don't really come out of it. So you've got to empathize with yourself. So I think the story of Tech Mahindra's innovation has been all about story of courage. And looking forward to, TechM looks at this innovation culture in 2 or 3 years. In terms of technology, whether it's extensible reality, AI, blockchain, IoT, quantum computing, in terms of people, and whether associates are wired enough to essentially look at that new world for innovation. And in terms of processes, can we give a process around innovation without stifling the innovation factor? So I think that's the innovation story for TechM.
Right. And we are again, the session is on road to the World Economic Forum. And there we have a very interesting topic for you: Internet of Toys, AI and next generation.
Yeah.
So how do you see that coming to the fit?
Yeah, I think it is. It is almost like an epiphany that topic actually landed on my plate, that which is Internet of Toys. Because not because it all talks about AI and all, but also it talks about what I do in personal life. I've got 2 kids, one a 5-month-old and one a 5 years old. So I think both of them are essentially in that mode when they're using all of these toys which are riddled or which are with AI and AI aspect. But I think my topic in World Economic Forum is more to do with how would this next generation and how would these algorithms of AI really cut down the privacy aspect? because most people are now concerned about whether private data or sensitive data can be taken out and can be used for some harmful purposes. B, can we remove the bias from AI? So I think for all the changes in the algorithms that have happened, the algorithms have also become biased. And why is that? Because data is biased as well, and we human beings have always been biased. And there are some credible stories in how some of the bots became biased towards a particular individual, or some pricing meters become biased to somebody. And this has all been because there is biased data. But when we present these new toys, and when these are toys which our kids are going to use, can AI and the next generation look at from an international cooperation point of view that what is the flow of data? What do you really mean by bias? And can we put some laws around it? I think that's what the topic is about, shaping of the new future in World Economic Forum. That's what I'm speaking about.
Right. And not in Tech Mahindra, because you are there and all the leadership is there, but there's a general saying that AI is stealing jobs.
Yeah.
So just wanted to know, for the audience sake, what's your take on that?
No, I think the fears are not unfounded. I think when people say that something automates, and you have to really look at that AI and that script of work which is automating, what would happen to my job? I think there are two facets to it. I think from my perspective, yes, some formats of jobs might really change the way we work today. But I think there are a lot more formats of jobs that would come up because of AI, which we would look at. It would probably take another 50 to 100 years, as my prediction, which I keep doing in the future, is that there would be only 50 years till a point comes when AI starts producing some conscious. Said was a part where neuroscience comes in. We are looking at modeling the neocortex of a brain, which does not have any fear factor, which does not have any fright response, which only has the intelligence facet. And that intelligence facet is essentially how neurons really work together. It does not have consciousness in it. So if AI is looked at from a neuroscientific perspective, AI might not become human at any point in time in the near future, or in the farther future ahead. But what would happen is that some parts of jobs would essentially change over, and you would essentially have more jobs. And humans would become much more, or humans would be needed much more to understand the results given by AI, which is essentially happening at this point. We are essentially looking at concepts where AI produces, or AI algorithms produce a result. It's very difficult to believe in what the AI algorithm produces. Also understand what it really means in the context of data or in the physical world. So I think more jobs would be made rather than jobs lost in the near future when AI starts doing, or starts becoming more productionized.
One of the interesting designations I came across was a robot trainer.
Yeah.
And to train the robot also, we need humans. So I think we are, as of now, we are safe.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely safe.
All right. Let me just take in some questions from the audience. There's one question on maybe it might be an employee of Tech Mahindra, but yeah, on a larger scheme of things, is there any project in combination of AI and IoT in Tech Mahindra? Maybe that'll club into the Internet of Toys part of it.
There are a lot of projects that we are also doing in the space of Makers Lab with AI and IoT. I think we've also made ways in which information from the car or information from an automobile can be utilized, and the insights better utilized to drive what's the next point in an autonomous vehicle, or a vehicle that is driven by a driver. And that's one of the projects that we are essentially doing, without divulging a lot of details. I think there are certain other aspects on sustainability. For example, we're looking at how energy conservation would probably happen with AI. And while we have smart meters, while we have solar panels within Tech Mahindra, but are we also measuring and having an insight from a predictive point of view of how much I would save as an energy from the entire gamut of things that I do within the TechM organization, or what would I try and save in the future? I think there are lots of these projects where IoT, which is sensing of data from these machines or your environment, is essentially that is being converted into insights by AI. Yes, there are about couple of projects being run in Tech Mahindra.
Right. There. We're just glancing through the questions. So here's what is the implication of AI on humanity in general? That's another question that is posed.
Yeah, I think we've what is the implication today? I think the implication today has been much more. It has been 50-50. Some people consider it as the next tool in electricity, and the next and data being the fuel of it, and AI being the electricity. Some folks consider AI to be, the next Skynet or the Terminator response. But I think in overall perspective, or from a human point of view, AI's impact has been positive that we have seen. One of the aspects and one of the facets that we've seen from a human perspective is machines that were earlier dumb and we had to program everything are now reducing that aspect and facet for a lot of work that we're doing. Human beings in general are not meant to maintain Excel sheets and not meant to maintain these mundane tasks. They're meant to maintain much more social connects. When those tasks are being taken up by machines, they would really help us with an insight, of course. Earlier, there were scripts. Now AI has an insight value and a predictive value, so they can do that task better. From another angle, the AI aspect on human beings and from a bioengineering perspective or a medical science perspective, AI has been really helpful in understanding about genetic constitution as well as the gene therapy. People are finding out new and new diseases, or in fact finding out cures for those diseases from looking at AI and some of the techniques that we use in AI from a genomic perspective. See, the idea of pharmaceuticals or the business around drugs has always been stifled because of the fact that the research took a longer period of time. With AI, with tools, with the amount of computing power, today the results are much more, they're faster, and they essentially are to a certain extent error free when AI essentially looks at some of those things. So I think overall impact on humanity has been very, very positive, and we look forward to using this electricity in the future. The only thing that we just have to worry about, and this was a quote that something that also struck me, was if data is the new fuel, AI is the new electricity, we humans just have to worry about the next pollution. So the idea behind AI, and that's what the World Economic Forum chat also has been. While the world's going towards AI, towards machines, can we look at machines not creating more pollution? Can we train them in a way? Can we have some laws around it? If we do that, I think AI is a force to reckon with in the future.
Thank you, Nikhil. I think one of the recent Shark Tank episode, which the business idea that got funded was trying to find the genome of your pet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe AI is one of the secret tools. They didn't reveal it, but that might be one of the tools they're using.
Absolutely.
Cool. Nikhil, one more question. Raj is asking, how affordable is AI for the startups to implement? Do they need a big brother like Tech Mahindra, or how can we implement it?
No, I think that's a good question. I think AI
for easy,
yeah. I think, and there's no easy answer, but I think AI is not. I think it's not a plug and play that you can put into a startup, and your startup community suddenly rises up to that challenge, saying that now, since I have AI in my PPTs and in my under the hood, I've become a better startup. I think one of the things that we have to realize is that AI and machine learning only solves a particular problem, and we've got to ensure that that problem is bang on its head when we essentially use AI tools. We have startups which are essentially not utilizing AI and utilizing machines and general purpose programming, and they're doing pretty well. I think utilize AI only when it is needed would be my advice to the startup, that essentially says it's not necessary to essentially spruce up your your pitches with AI and ML almost always. It's all about the problem that you're trying to solve in a startup. And if you're trying to solve a problem without using AI and ML and it solves it well, I think that's good enough. That's number one. Number two is TechM definitely has a policy to essentially work with startups. We have a program called StartNet, where we essentially incorporate and we essentially conglomerate a lot of startups, understand what they're doing, understand the space in which they are working with, and also take them jointly as a proposition to some of our customers to help solve a problem. It does not matter whether you've got an AI component built in. All, again, saying is it's the problem that you solve that is much more important.
Thank you, Nikhil. Other questions, I think. Yeah, there are a couple. Hope you have time.
Yeah, we have. Yes, please.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, in 2020, will AI help in being a
I'm
next
sorry, there's a slight bit
revolution
of a
like
disturbance from
computers
your
did in
end. Your voice
80s?
seems a little. Yeah.
Sorry. So, will AI in 2020s could be the next revolution like the computers did in 80s?
Yeah, I think it's already a revolution. I think what will happen in 2020s is and there's something around the corner which AI would look at. The corner is quantum computing. The moment you get a little bit of much more parallel speeds to AI and algorithms, and if they essentially start working on a quantum plane, I think the progress would be much enhanced. We are probably also looking at even overhauling the entire algorithmic space of AI as well. Whatever we have managed to achieve over a period of last 5 to 10 years since AI came up, or AI started, procrastinating because of the GPU and some of the other components that came in, would probably be overhauled as well. You never know. But 2020s would definitely see AI as the only, not the only, but one of the major components of how we drive economic growth, number one. Number two, look at solving some of the problems which are not being solved today because of, either compute or lack of data or prediction values that we do or insights. And quantum computing play a bigger role in propelling AI, because quantum by definition is a parallel compute system which will give you much more robust speeds for these algorithms to work upon. So you would have faster results, and your research would essentially increase or increase many folds over there. So I think definitely it's already producing an effect, but it'll produce a larger effect in 2020s as well.
Thanks, Nikhil. Let's take in one last question. And being any technology, I think ROI will be the top of the mind for any CXOs. So the question is, how tough is it for brands to compute ROI from AI?
Yeah, I think the ROI essentially is a measure that we also look towards when we essentially implement and also talk to our customers. I think one of the biggest ROIs that you look at, I think there are different measures. People look at how much cost of OPEX did I save, how much revenue did I make. I think the biggest ROI for any corporate or an executive who's trying to implement AI is only one. Did we solve the problem correctly? Number one. And what was the net resultant? So the ROI measure would be the problem got solved by a machine without or very little human intervention. And that's a measure of how AI did. I can go down to some technical sub levels saying that what was the precision value, what was the recall, but that's not needed. I think on a base perspective, did I solve the problem correctly? Number one. Number two, was there a return customer who came back and utilized that system? Was there a return element attached to that? Did I come back and, which also showcases the human empathetic factor that I know and I can trust this AI. So did somebody come back and utilize that system as well, whatever claimed to be AI or machine learning based? And the third thing was that did we not scuttle any privacy laws, or did we look at privacy and bias in a very objective way, so that the customers were also had the trust as well as the belief that this system, we know it's an AI system, but we know that it would essentially perform the task for us. So I think these would be the ROIs for me, for any CXO or an executive trying to implement
AI. Nikhil, any final words? Looking forward to the World Economic Forum.
No, I think I'm looking forward to it very eagerly. I think there are a lot of people to meet, a lot of new ideas to discuss. And I think this topic of AI and Internet of Toys and the AI and next generation really is very close to heart, because you have kids and you know what we go through when we essentially put a kind of parental filter on all the things that they watch over your phones and tablets. But looking forward to it, and eagerly and meeting these young champions, or new champions as they call it in Dalian, to find out what the world is up to. So yeah, that's what I'm doing, Arun.
Thank you, Nikhil. Thanks a lot for this enlightening session. It was great knowing you, as well as the work you do in Makers Lab within Tech Mahindra. and the world is a brighter place with AI in the vicinity. Thanks a lot, Nikhil. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much. Thanks, man. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye. Signing off, guys.